consuming electricity entities, even say for example, the army entities, air force stations, everything, they have real prospects of quality energy management if they shift to renewable. But coming back, to the cybersecurity angle also here, these networks are, all now SCADA-based systems and all, and hence absolutely the power networks are all controlled by sophisticated, computers.
Okay.
So now what are the security measures that we have put in place? And then, you have the NTPCs, you also have the private guys. Now, if do you have a level playing, or do you have a certain standards, or are the regulators themselves putting some stringent conditions of maintaining a certain level of network readiness or protection, so that the redundancy is built in. You cannot allow your grid to go down in one place because your computers have not been
No, we are talking at a time when the US and China are apparently talking that there has been a lot of cyber or let's say they've been breaching each other's cyber codes to some extent, and though in public they deny it, but what about cyber warfare and those areas, and what kind of level of security would be required for our installations for that? Because we've seen the Edward Snowden incident, about how much he was revealed. We know through WikiLeaks how much was revealed. Information is
क्योंकि हम
available.
सारी चीज़ों को डिजिटल करते जा रहे हैं. कल हमारी मेट्रो डिजिटल हो जाएगी, परसों हमारी ट्रेन डिजिटल हो जाएंगी, हमारे हवाई जहाज़ जो चलते हैं, एयर ट्रैफिक कंट्रोल वो डिजिटल हो जाएगा, हमारे मिसाइल सिस्टम जो हैं वो डिजिटल हो जाएंगे. तो इसमें जो मार्ग का सवाल है, काफ़ी मुझे लगता है काफ़ी ज़रूरी सवाल है.
बिल्कुल. इनफैक्ट टू आंसर यू, every network today is vulnerable to an insider threat as well as external threats. And by statistics today, 70 to 75% of the attacks are because of internal sabotage rather than the external hackers. We generally tend to ignore this part. We always think that someone is trying to hit the network from outside and take it down. So I think equally we have to look at both of this, the internal as well as the external aspects of cyber attacks that are going to come in play. Now, with critical infrastructure network, in India we still haven't specifically defined what is a critical infrastructure, but we know what is a critical infrastructure. For example, the airports, air traffic, telecom, everything. Many countries, US and all, have defined what means a critical infrastructure in terms of the cybersecurity related protection. I think as part of our national cybersecurity initiative, we really need to get serious about the critical infrastructure protection. We have something called the National Center for Critical Information Protection Center, NCIAPC, we have it, which is under the NTRO. And to look at the critical infrastructures also, under the IT Act, Section 70, we also have a mandate that an agency will be responsible for this, and currently the agency is NTRO. So we have the institutional mechanism in place. What we need to concentrate and build up is the actual investments on the infrastructure. Now that infrastructure is a mix of hardware, software, then the patches that need to update, and a kind of an ecosystem of best practices and dedicated resources who look at this medium in a very, very dynamic model, and not thinking that once you have put an antivirus, your system.
But so the cyber security experts have to be ahead of companies, let's say like Google and all that, who are creating all sorts of new infrastructure, new ideas, and putting things out in their space, which can at some level then can compromise the security of the world.
Absolutely. In fact, while it is easier to say, but it need not necessarily be always possible for everyone to be ahead of all these applications that are being put. But when
it's not possible, obviously it's not, because they are doing it commercially, and they are.
But when they are doing something commercially, they themselves are putting the best practices in place. They are putting the necessary security solutions, because they have a bigger loss of reputation if something goes wrong, rather than a Google server crashing has much more impact